Hello everyone, this is Jimmy, and welcome to episode 24 of Omnifactory. Perhaps we can call it Lag Factory at this point, though. I'm really running into the problem where the server TPS is so low that I can't really play the game. Like, even just trying to move around, I rubber band all the time, and when I try to open an inventory, it takes... Well, that one opened quickly. Sometimes it takes up to a full second between when I, try to access something and when it actually opens up. And it's really making it difficult to play. Now, you know what? Before I rant too much, let's take a look at how some of our automation is doing. So, Tier 9 microminers, we've only made 4 of them in the last day, and Tier 10s, we've only made 6. Remember, our goal is upwards of 300, right? It was like 335 or something. So we have a ways to go before we get there. Some other bits, let's look at maybe our tier 1s. 17k, that's pretty good. We made 10k in the last day. And I guess we can look at dragon hides. 25k. I want to look, we actually only need 150k of these. So we're, what, 1/6 of the way there? That's not half bad at all. Now, back to the lag problem. Some people have mentioned that, why don't you move some of your machines to the void world where it'll, maybe lag less. And the problem isn't that I'm getting frame rate lag. I'm getting definitely a bit of frame rate lag, but it's not unbearable, right? You can see as I look around, my render distance is set extremely low. What is it at? 6? But I'm still, it's upwards of 30 almost all the time, and oftentimes I reach the FPS cap I set at 60. So really, it's not frame rate lag that's a problem, it's TPS lag. And strangely enough, if you run the TPS checking utilities, it doesn't even report any problems. Right, so if I run the Forge TPS tool, it says, TPS is 20, and that tick time is comfortably below the 50 millisecond mark. But to diagnose my problem, I installed a mod called Lag Goggles, which you can run profiling, which is, roughly speaking, it just tracks, where the server thread is running. And once this is done, let me show you the results a bit. So first of all, it highlights a bunch of blocks in red that ignore all of that. All the highlighting is literally useless. So go into Analyze Results, and you'll see that, first of all, there's a lot of stuff going on here. First, the entities by type is, generally speaking, this is your ticking tile entities, or your ticking entities in general, right? Tile entities, player entities, item entities, and mob entities. I'm not having any issues with that. Their total time is well below the 50 milliseconds that we have allocated per tick. What I'm running into is that these event subscriber threads, mostly the Applied Energistics one, for some reason on this one profiler run, the Craft, let me run it again. I don't know why Craft Tweaker showed up as a significant source of lag. But anyways, while that's running again, we can take a look at this. These run on the server thread, so they run in series with all the ticking entities, and these also have to be done in time, otherwise we'll observe server lag. So let me see what happens on the... So yeah, this is a more what I'm used to seeing anyways. The Applied Energistics event subscriber is hogging the I guess the server thread, which is causing the lag that I'm observing. Right, because it's not being affected by ticking tile entities, we don't see TPS lag, but we see stuff like let me hide all these stupid colors, stuff like that kind of rubber banding, and machines running far slower than they should. So if we take a look at these, right, you see that they're running extremely slowly and extremely laggy. some people will intuitively, and it's not that like it's bad intuition or anything, think, hey Jimmy, because you have 400 simulation chambers, isn't that the cause of your lag? Well, the thing is, these are tile entities, which means that they are here. In fact, all of the deep mob learning tile entities per tick take 500 microseconds. So, based on our lag goggles profiling, we can somewhat conclude that the problem lies within the applied energistics event handler thread. So to debug that further, the tools in Minecraft don't really let you delve further into it, so this bit might get a little bit technical, and I'm sorry for people that are, if you're not interested in the technical stuff, you probably want to skip most, if not all, of this episode. So let me pull up a tool called Visual VM, which is a Java debugger. I guess a Java profiler and debugger. So here, let me collapse this. So here is Visual VM. Its purpose is, at least for now, is to help us identify where the work is happening, and in some cases it can. How do I collapse everything, anyways? Anyways, in some cases it can help us identify where we have to fix the problem. If we can identify problematic parts of our base, or perhaps in this case it'll more tell us that there's really nothing we can do about it, nothing meaningful we can do. Okay, so I've been running the sampler for a while on my system here, and you can see I've attached it to the server jar, or the server executable. So looking here, basically what we're interested in is the server thread, and we're curious as to what the server thread is spending all its time doing. So as we dive into it, I should have collapsed these. I thought it was possible to collapse all. There we go. Okay. So as we look into the server thread here, we can see that essentially this is the main server loop. It just runs constantly to update game state and all that jazz. Looking in here, there are two main places where work is being done. If we look at, well, I'm not an expert on the structure of the Minecraft server loop, or Forge, or all that stuff. I'm not a Minecraft developer, so perhaps take what I say here with a grain of salt. I could entirely be wrong, and if I am, I will, if I find out later that I'm wrong, I'll post appropriate corrections to the best of my ability. But what's happening here is there are two main functions that we're interested in. This one that I have highlighted is the ticking function. Basically, it's where all the ticking tile entities and that stuff happens. And if we look into it, we can see that in here we can see that this is where all the this is where Greg Tech ticking tile entities happen. This is where the Ender IO ticking tile entities happen. But if we look at the total time, most of the time the server is spent running on this on post server tick method. And looking in here, basically only applied energistics runs here. So I think it's just applied energistics doesn't tick their tile entities one by one, or perhaps it does, but it does most of their work on this post server tick method. So looking into here, we can see that right, if you look at the class names here, applied energistics, the ME system, when it calls its update method, it spends a long time doing the update, and that's the source of our lag. Looking further in, we can see that it's caused both by tile, or by interfaces, which is the one I have highlighted here, and export buses. And we'll look at them one at a time. So let's start with export buses. In the export bus, the reason why our export buses are taking a long time to actually do their work is because it takes a long time for them to calculate the crafting plan. So, right, there are two, I guess, sources of work here. One is handle crafting, and one is push item into target. I'm sure you can guess what they do. So as we delve deeper and deeper into this, we can see that the process of generating the crafting plan is what our export bus is spending most of its time doing, and we can't really take like we can minimize the number of export buses we have in our base with crafting cards in them, but that's kind of like a core function of why we use applied energistics. I can't really take these out and have our base function. So as we delve further down into here, it looks like it's doing some type of recursive search of the crafting tree. It looks to me anyways like it's some type of depth first search of the crafting tree. And then when it finds a completed crafting plan, it executes it in some way, shape, or form. But looking at this here, it also seems to be that for some reason the craft tweaker integration is causing some, I don't know exactly what's happening, but some amount of work is happening due to craft tweaker. And the end result though is that it takes a long time for the export bus to actually do its work. Now, moving on to interfaces, we can see that, let's see, as we dive into here, it's also the crafting part that is, having our interfaces do our crafting for us, which is really basically the same, the same function as having our export buses do the crafting, is the cause of our lag as well. But as we dive into here, we can see that perhaps I suspect it might be similar for the export buses, but the source of the reason that this process takes a long time is that the process of extracting items from external inventories takes a really long time. So as we dive down into here, we can see that this is, I believe, this is the amount of time it takes the ME system to extract items from its internal, like our storage drives, whereas this is the amount of time it takes the ME system to extract items from external storage. And in fact, as we look further into here, we can see that the extraction of items from storage drawers is extremely expensive and it takes a long time. And from talking with the Applied Energistics developers, they point to something called capabilities being implemented in Forge. Honestly, I have no clue what that means. But the effect of that is that extracting items and inserting items into external storages is a very time-consuming operation for Applied Energistics. So with that in mind, let's go back to Minecraft and take a look at the way our base is designed. So what we've somewhat established is that ticking tile entities are not the cause of our lag, but rather it is the use of crafting cards on export buses and the extract of items from external storages. So I can't really just say, hey, well, I guess I'll just not use external storage. This is our wall of resources now, right, being generated by the creative tanks. I suppose it's theoretically possible to store all of these items in native ME storage and then use level emitters to turn off all of these machines when we have, a reasonable number of the items. But that just seems like such a unelegant and awful solution that, I don't know, I don't really want to do it that way. But using the storage buses on the drives is causing us to get, 3 to 5 ticks per second. Anyways, yeah, I'm not sure what I can do about that, but I guess I'll have to think about that a bit more. And then on the other hand, if we look around our base, there's a bunch of places where we just have crafting cards doing work because, like, this crafting card, if it'll ever open, right, is sending Franken zombies to our assembly line. And in each of these cases, for me to get rid of this crafting card, I'd have to put enough infrastructure here to make this item locally, which means I need a soul binder locally, I need a Z-Logic, I need a way to make Z-Logic controllers locally, I need a way to, like, I guess nothing in here gets made with a crafting card. But to eliminate the use of crafting cards throughout the base will take a tremendous amount of redesign that I just don't think is reasonable at this point. So I'm gonna give it a little bit more thought to see if I can find a better solution, but if not, unfortunately, we might just have to end the series here. It's just gotten to the point where between the scope of what, the amount of work that needs to be done to complete the creative ending upgrade, that combined with the fact that anything I do makes the server run even slower than it already is making it impossible to make meaningful progress in a reasonable amount of time. So yeah, I'll be back soon, and I'll see if I can come up with a better solution than, like the worst case scenario is we just can't continue. So I'm gonna try to see if we can do better than that. Alright guys, I've tried just about everything simple I can think of. Taking the storage buses off the network, trying to minimize the amount of crafting going on and stuff, and I've pretty much come to the conclusion that the only way I can make this base stop lagging is to literally take everything down and redesign it from the bottom up, keeping in mind the limitations that we are working with, and that is that item input and output into the AE system is a relatively costly operation, and we have to minimize it at all costs. To do so, we would design fully like assembly line systems in a way that start with as many creative fluid tanks as we need, and that they flow item to item with item conduits and stuff in between without hitting the AE system, and the final output are the components that we need, stuff like the micro miners and all that stuff. But then even doing it that way, it may be possible to make the creative ending upgrade that way, but at that point I feel like, at least for me, it's not playing Minecraft anymore. It's more just like you're not, I don't know, like the game you're playing is so different from what I expect modded Minecraft to be that I wouldn't have fun doing it. So unfortunately, given the circumstances here, I think it might be time to put this series down. I'm not saying it's over for good if by some miracle someone has an idea that can make this lag go away, or if improvements are made on either the Forge end or the applied Energistics end, even though I don't think there's anything they can do about it that'll improve this performance. I'm totally willing to pick this pack back up right here and try to run it through to the end. But that said, I wouldn't count on such developments happening. So what I'm thinking is I'll set this series aside now. There are plans in the works for some new stuff coming up. It'll be at least a couple days before anything is ready. I'd say more realistically on the order of a week. So yeah, for the next week there unfortunately may not be videos, but sometime around a week I would expect there'll be another series spinning up, and I think it'll be very exciting. So I guess if there's any demand for this world, for people to look around in it, see if, poke around in it, see if you can deal with the issue yourself, I'll make a download available again. Feel free to do what you want. And yeah, so I'm sorry it has to end on such a somber note like this. I was hoping we could finish it, but, technical issues kind of get in the way of that. So anyways, I guess that's the end of Omnifactory for now, but hang tight, it's not the end of modded Minecraft. I'll be back soon. Bye bye, take care.